Hi everyone, how are you today? It's around 6 a.m. here in Brazil, and I am super excited to be here introducing you to the world of DevSecOps. But first, I want to thank all the organizers, sponsors, and speakers for the hard work they have put in the last days to bring all the talks alive. To me, it's an honor to be around so many incredible names. And I don't know if I even have the right clothes to be around them, but I guess that in our current situations, pajamas are okay, right? Uh, I also want to show my appreciation to all the essential workers working and risking their lives to save so many of us. Thank you so much. We appreciate. Uh, Please be a hero as well and stay at home for us and for them. Finally, I want to remember you that all the talks are free, but all the sponsorship we received, thank you so much. And all the voluntary donations you are going to do during this day are going straight to the World Health Organization to help the fight against COVID-19. Okay, let's start. First, a little bit about me. I am the CIO of SpiritSec, a Brazilian security council, and I work as an InfoSec Pro since too much time. I am also a member of the DevOps Days community, the Linux Professional Institute, and the Debian project, where I start to learn about security, translating the Debian security manual to Portuguese. I also have a B-side where I advise governments concerning international security and technologies. But enough about me. What is DevSecOps? Well, 10 years into the DevOps movement, and I just got on board on the DevSecOps fund. I'm sure I am not the only one out there, and I believe I could share my learning experience so you could better enjoy all the amazing talks we are going to have in the next hours, such as DevOps and Security Chaos Engineer. And believe me, we are doing DevOps, DevSecOps with Patrick Dubois. So, what is DevSecOps? A really straightforward explanation of this term came from Guy Pradjani. He's the CIO of Snyk. And on a talk he delivered last year, he showed us the three phases of DevSecOps. If DevOps can be divided into three main principles: DevOps culture, rapid change, shared ownership, uh, DevOps methodologies such as microservices, APIs, CI/CD pipelines, and DevOps technologies such as containers, cloud, then somehow DevSecOps has to mean to include security into the DevOps culture, secure DevOps methodologies, and secure DevOps tools. Very straightforward, right? Okay, but how? Uh, to better understand he has to go back to the way he used to think about security. During the waterfall days, the InfoSec team were like the gatekeepers with a role isolated to the final stages of development. You can see this on the pipeline in the top. He used to have a scheduled security audit that reviewed the code, but only after everything was finished. This audit was against some predefined list of requirements. Later days or weeks, a PDF report with hundreds of pages that people only read the conclusion went to the C-level executives, take another pair of days or weeks to reach the developers and the rest of the team. In this scenario, the team failed to implement the necessary modifications, making the company lose time and money by not separating the security code from the unapproved one. Or sometimes the software was launched even with all the vulnerabilities. And when the corrections reach the roadmap, the code is already old or maybe even was explored. There's so many aspects of the DevOps culture that is important to secure, but due to your time, let's concentrate in two that are really important. The concept of shift left and shared ownership. The philosophy behind shift left is to introduce the security scans into the beginning of the workflow into the end, so he could find and fix vulnerabilities before the code is accepted into a build or into productions, giving feedback to developers so this professional can analyze the code or analyze the container and fix all the vulnerabilities. Let's take a look on DevSecOps pipeline. So usually a DevOps pipeline, you make the test, and when there is a failure on the process, you shift left. This means that you return to the person that made the PR, right? And from a security standpoint of view, it's the same belief. If there is a security problem, vulnerability, the developer has to be able to make the analysis and fix it by itself. Another important culture aspect is about shared ownership. From a security standard point of view, he are losing the war. Usually, a DevOps team has 100 devs, 10 ops, and just one security professional. So he have to engage all the team to work with the same mentality. And to do this, you have to be enablers and allow the dev and ops teams to introduce security development practices. You can do that by, for example, creating a shared security library with mechanisms and tools such as authentication and encryption service that are already checked by the security team, with everything available and easily be searchable. It's easier for developers and operators to reuse secure code, so make their lives easier. You can also curate a standard container image with the most used systems like Apache and your database, for example. It's also a good practice to use the same DevOps tools to manage security issues and events. So everyone can see, can have the visibility of what's going on with the code and with the pipeline, again, from the security point standard of view. And finally, the culture of postmortem. The InfoSec pros are really into postmortem. This is something that he do all the time. So you can join the two teams together and check if all the actions are been thinking to avoid the event to happen again. Is everyone informed, and is the plan placed on the roadmap? For the InfoSec professionals out there, it's time for you to get on board with the program. An easy way to do that is to adopt security as code. Okay, but isn't DevSecOps the same thing as security as code? I like to make a separation between the two terms, because you can have security as code outside of a DevOps pipeline, right? You can have security as code to do automations with Ansible and Chef to manage security appliances. So DevSecOps is everything that mixed DevOps, everything that is related to your CI/CD platform, for example. To do this, InfoSec pros have to learn how to program in Python, for example, and see your configurations files as codes, managing them with a repository such as GitLab or GitHub, and in no time you'll be able to collaborate with the DevOps teams. But remember, DevSecOps is not only about tools, but mainly about culture. It's about time InfoSec professionals to dive deep into the DevOps culture and its goals. And if you are getting on board or helping someone to get on board, give special attention to the concept of CI/CD and continuous feedback. This is a challenge for us, InfoSec pros, because we are used to the mindset to have one vendor solution that would solve our security problems. But it never did. Concerning how to secure DevOps methodologies, the Agile and DevOps movements transformed development methodologies and brought a whole new set of concepts such as microservices, APIs, continuous pipelines, containers, and when the organizations decide, also the cloud. This, of course, is not an extensive list, but I like to start to think about security concerning the 4 Cs, because you have too many things to think about security when you are talking about DevOps. So let's start small with the 4 Cs defined by the Cloud Native Security: code, container, cluster, and cloud. As you can see from the figure below, each one of the 4 Cs depends on the security of the squares in which they fit. If you secure only your code, it's nearly impossible to think that you are secure enough. It's possible to bring more security to the CI/CD methodology, for example, by automating code scanners. In the pre-build phase, you can use static analysis. It's a test that you perform in a non-production environment. A Saas inspects application code, searching for flaws, backdoors, and malwares. Some examples are SoniCube, it's industry standard, and Veracode as well. And Snyk is a tool that's growing in the market. At this stage, you can also check some of your dependencies. You can check if they have any kind of vulnerabilities or malicious binaries, because these days most of the developers reuse code that they find on the internet, or some of the libraries and APIs are delivered by a vendor, so it's a good practice to check them as well. An industry standard tool is the WASP dependency check that you can integrate into your CI/CD pipeline platform, for example, GitHub or Gitlab, and the WASP dependency check will, through an API, make out the tests, and if there is a failure, you can configure it to open an issue on your GitHub, for example. After deployment, he can resort to a dynamic analysis test using a tool usually called Dust, and it emulates a type of penetration test from an outsider's standpoint of view. It will make the same scans that an invader will do, and examples of tools are the WASP ZASP, app scan, or the metaexploit. So again, when you input security tests inside your CI/CD pipeline, you automate this security test, and you can, if there is a failure, shift left and ask the developers to fix them. I hope this makes more clear what is a DevSecOps pipeline. Is to concern code. For many organizations, the CI/CD platform are the cornerstones of their DevOps strategies, and securing the tool is essential as securing the code that hosts. It's also a great starting point to start adopting the culture of security shared ownership with developers, since they are the primary users of a CI/CD platform. Together, the Sec team and the DevOps team can create a story of the platform and map how users could abuse the tool and plan actions to minimize these risks. Then you can include these activities on the roadmap and, when possible, assign security responsibilities to the developers and operators. And remember, even if you use Saas, a software as a service platform, the provider is only responsible for the security of the environment. The configuration of your instance is up to the administrator. Both Gitlab and Github, and I'm sure all the other major platforms have security centers with detailed documentation, some trainings, and how to reach the security channels. So make sure you use and check them constantly. Okay, let's go to our second C, containers. They are really important steps to improve the efficiency of application delivery and deployment. A container in itself is considered a lighter form and a great alternative to creating a virtual machine. I know this is an oversimplification. Due to the nature of containers, developers can easily share images and all the dependencies of an application, making it easy to deploy and share with their operation teams, for example, eliminating small barriers around the famous phrase, works on my computer. Containers in itself, they are powerful security tools. They are by design running with low levels of permissions, and they also allow the standardizations of images, as I said, but they will lose their power if the host operations system is not secure. So remember, the code is so secure as the container, and the container is so secure as the cluster or the cloud where it's hosted. There's many images that are available out there, and it has become a security cliche to ask for moderation in use of public images. And easily your team should create their own images, follow some safety recommendations. The Center for Internet Security, CIS, has a document called Docker Benchmark. It's a reference document that can be used by system administration, security, and other IT professionals to establish a security configuration baseline for Docker containers. And if you're going to use Docker available publicly, you can refer to tools like Clary Scanner that scans for vulnerability and Docker Bench for security. Okay, until now we have seen what is DevSecOps, how to introduce security into DevOps culture, how to introduce security into DevOps methodologies, and we are going to concentrate on the 4 C's: code, container, cloud, cluster, and cloud. Until now, we have seen how to make your code and your container more secure. Let's now go to the 2 final C's: cluster and cloud. DevOps culture and methodologies vary from company to company, right? What we can say about tools then? If we only include the cloud options here, the cognitive computing foundation, for example, lists so many projects that it's virtually impossible to be a DevSecOps engineer and know all the security configurations that you must do for this project. So let's go back to the cognitive security forces: code, container, cluster, and cloud. Okay, so I always do that. I talk and forget to pass the slides. So a simple pipeline, a simple DevOps pipeline usually has this set of tools. These are the standards of DevOps. But you can have all these options. You have all these options in the market, and then you can move to all the cognitive computing foundations options here. Too many options. We don't need all this, right? But it's good because you can choose what fits right, what fits best for your company. Regarding the security of your cluster, you have to remember once again that it will be as secure as your code, your container, and your cloud, the cloud that hosts the cluster, your Kubernetes. The Kubernetes security documentation lists important sections such as controlling access to the Kubernetes and its API, allowing restrictions by users, by network, for example, and controlling access to capabilities of workloads or user at runtime, such as memory use to prevent an attack. So make sure you check the security documentation and follow the procedures recommended. So regarding our final C, the cloud, I think the best people to talk about their security is the providers. And one thing that is really important to keep in mind is that security in the cloud is the same as security on a premise data center. This is something that I copy and pasted from the AWS Security Center. Make sure to check them. And it says something very central to keep in mind. Customers, you are responsible for security in the cloud. And AWS is responsible for security of the cloud. It's the same for Google Cloud and other providers such as Azure and so many others. So make sure you check their security documentation centers. There is a good amount, as usual, of articles and good practices, and some have training. I have to do AWS security training is on my to-do list. It's the same for Google Cloud. And of course, you can also use third-party tools to check if your cloud is secure enough. We have, of course, the Netflix team, Security Monkey. They have a series of tools that they develop for internal use and that you can check. You also have for security and cloud exploit. So I believe the main messages here is you are responsible for the security of your cloud, of your the instance of your cloud, for your data, your users, and their permissions, and so many other things. which tools connect to your cloud. So keep this concern in mind and engage your team, not just the security professional, but all the dev and ops professionals as well, and mapping these possible vulnerabilities. And now we have reached the conclusion session of my talk. I hope you have enjoyed as much as I did. So to finish, let's see our main takeaways from our sessions. We have discovered what is DevSecOps. He also learned about the concept of shift left, and that the security DevSecOps main goal should be to empower dev and ops professionals to analyze and take security measures. Automation into the pipeline is also important, but the main goal should be empower your team, because he are losing, he are just one and not enough 100, for example. He also learned about the concepts of 4Cs. There is too much tools and methodologies to take care. If you have to select a point of start, a starting point, go for the 4Cs: code, and your CI/CD platform as well, that I believe is the same as your code, container, cluster, and cloud. And remember, devs, he really needs your help. So learn about secure development practices, because this is going to be your concern from now on as well. And for ops and sec, it's time for us to get on board. I believe this pretty much concludes my talk, and I hope you guys had enjoyed as much as I did. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Thank you to all the organizers. Please be sure to watch all the amazing DevSecOps lectures you have today. And remember to donate. And let's start our Q&A session. Do you have time for that?
Hello, Michelle.
Hi, so how are
Unfortunately,
you?
hello. I don't know if I had enough time. Let me see. We have 3 minutes. So I saw that there are already some questions at our Slack, but I'll tell you the first one so you can keep on going there afterwards. Okay?
Sure, I will be happy to talk with people on Slack.
Okay. I understand that culture is the key with DevSecOps, which is very hard to foster, especially if a company has just started practicing DevOps. Do you have any suggestions that encourages this culture through some trainings or some sort of team activities?
I believe the most important thing is to foster trust between people. Patrick Dubois has an excellent talk about trust as a starting point for DevSecOps, and I really recommend people to watch that. I will put the link on the Slack chat, both to Patrick Dubois talk about security, trust as a starting point for security. And I will also talk with them about other questions that may pop up.
Okay, thank you again for your amazing talk. It's always very good to see your talkings. I'm always excited when I see that you're on schedule. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And donate, guys. Have a great day and see you on Slack.